Insanity is buying the same game over and over again, yet expecting different results. But this isn't insanity, because we don't expect anything different anymore. I am the Invisible Gunslinger, and this is a subject that has spiraled out of control. Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh boy, this. I have tried to stay out of this subject, but with the recent release of the fourth game, I felt that this was a perfect opportunity for me to take a critical look at the series to see if there really is something special here, or if it is just an overrated pile of you-know-what. So with a brave glint in my eye, I went in, hoping that Freddy was ready for me. The first game was surprisingly good. Put into a Chuck E. Cheese prison designed by the fucking Gestapo, you're forced to sit around in a shitty little room with only 2 doors and a camera between you and a forced cosplay. The battery resource management was what drew me in and gave me a sense of anxiety. It was extremely compelling to see if you should risk closing both doors when you lose track of the robots who can sprint faster than Sonic to his chili dog waifu pillow, or if you should just sit there and do nothing for a few seconds to try to conserve power. However, at times I was so intimidated to check the cameras that I just ended up going back and forth between the 2 doors. I couldn't really take the time to examine the cameras and be spooked by the robots, but to be honest, they usually look so fucking goofy that maybe spending as little time looking at them is a good thing. There is screen tearing when you turn your head, and it's honestly very distracting, but it is the first game in the series, so I'll let it slide. So now the elephant in the room, jump scares. Is it worth doing a whole game around them? In my opinion, hell no, but this still comes very close to being a good game that focuses on jump scares, but that doesn't change the fact that jump scares are essentially the penny candy of video games, and to be honest, when the scares are done this frequently, they just get tedious and annoying rather than scary, no matter how well designed they are. But I will give credit to the game's overall aesthetic and robot designs. Both draw you in very well, and the jump scares did startle me when I was intensely focusing. It's also worth noting that the phone calls were the highlight of the game. I found myself charmed by the overall quirkiness of the voice acting, done by the game's developer, Mr. Coffin, and I loved how it explained the game's mechanics without feeling like it was telling me how to play a video game.
Pizza rating. Pepperoni slice dropped on the floor.
The second game is where the really big problems began for me. You are now trapped in a pizza parlor run by a hoarder. You are flat out bombarded with animatronic opponents. You feel completely surrounded, but not in an intimidating way. It just feels like there's a lot of things to check up on, and to be honest, once you get the pattern down, it's not that intimidating. The good news is the phone calls return and retain most of their charm. They still serve as the game's primary "here's how to play the video game" feature, but the first night in each game dumps almost 3 full minutes of exposition on you, and to be honest, the charm begins to stagnate a bit towards the 4th night. I really wish you could get phone calls from different people. It would add some much needed variety. What doesn't work is how, despite this being a perfect opportunity to expand the concept in many new ways, you're now even more limited than before. Looking in the cameras has become even less important and more risky. The resource management has been extremely dumbed down. You're now given a flashlight with a very generic battery meter, and unless you use it constantly, it's very hard to run out of battery life. It doesn't demand any attention. The flashlight will also not shine down the hallway when the game is deciding whether or not to move a robot in or out of it. This breaks immersion and feels very frustrating. Why can't I shine my flashlight down the hallway whenever I want to? Because the robots are interfering with it? That's some bullshit. But hey, it isn't all flashlights and bullshit. You're now given a Freddy foreskin mask, which seems to offend some robots into leaving you alone, but the mask is essentially just a less protective version of the doors from the first game. Think about it like this. You activate a thing when the robots get too close and you wait for them to leave. But don't use the thing too long because you'll just end up fucking yourself. Sound familiar? This game also boasts over 10 robots that are trying to jump on you, and while having more robots might sound like it would raise the stakes, I was only killed by 3 animatronics throughout my 2 hours of playtime, so you're still jumped on by the same robots over and over again, but with the possibility of a few extras that might show up.
Pizza rating. All toppings freezer burnt special.
I'm aware that I'm glazing over a large amount of hidden secrets and story lore, but considering that I later read that it's quite difficult or rare to trigger some of these events, I consider them Easter eggs and besides the point for a general review. Easter eggs are fun, but they should be more of an aside rather than a selling point. Oh boy, the third game is almost nothing but problems for me. The pizza place has now been reorganized into a haunted house attraction, but ironically, this game is the least scary of them all. The building now has a ventilation system that will apparently start pumping LSD and PCP into your fucking eyeballs if it goes offline for even a second, because now you are attacked by phantom versions of the game's previous robots. Because of this, the jump scares now happen all the time. You can tank multiple scares at once now, sometimes as many as 3 or 4 happening within 10 seconds of each other. The scares in this game are barely even jump scares anymore. The robots just sort of hiss and lean in at you. Compare this to the first game where you were shrieked at and the camera was shaken like an animal in powerful jaws. The scares here just feel like a flaccid, hissy fart. One of the biggest selling points this game had is that there is now only one robot and only his scare counts as a game over. But this means a lot of the tension is lost, and the unimportant jumps happen so frequently, have so little consequence, and can usually be so heavily anticipated that they've lost all impact. This game also introduces the concept of system failure. You'll need to reboot the systems when they do fail, and this takes a few seconds. The systems can fail almost immediately after rebooting, forcing you to go back to a dull screen and wait for the cycle to endlessly repeat itself. The systems fail more frequently than a quadriplegic at a Dance Dance Revolution tournament. While these systems are rebooting, you are forced to sit there and do nothing for a set amount of time, so feel free to look at your phone, scratch your balls, or think about what a bad person you are for that revolution joke. This loses focus, breaks the flow of gameplay, and feels like an annoying stall tactic. And speaking of stalling, when you see a certain phantom, you get the most flaccid scare of the entire series. It's just a face with jittery eyes that follows you for a few seconds, no screams, no nothing. The first time this happened, I just started laughing out loud because I realized the game is literally trying to intimidate me with fucking googly eyes. But hey, maybe these scares are just building up to the game over scare since, that's the only one you have to avoid to progress. You'd think this one would be the most intense, but funnily enough, his scare amuses me the most because all he does is lean in and smile at you. He looks like he's coming in for a shoulder bump or a hug. He looks like such a shit eater that I just can't be scared of this guy. Even the phone calls, which used to be a source of dread, are now replaced with a hilariously stereotypical stoner voice that just is impossible to take seriously. It's like getting a phone call from fucking Ashton Kutcher. Remember how earlier I wish we could get other people to talk to us on the phone? This new guy took the bare minimum from that wish and became a cheap filler that does nothing but make us pine for our old phone buddy back who, lo and behold, returns after night 2. This felt pretty manipulative, like the developer saying, I don't want to put in the effort into making a new and interesting character. Let's just make a shit one and then bring the old guy back, because I know everyone just wants the same old stuff over and over again.
Pizza rating, nothing but crust.
I tried my best with these games. I went in with an open mind. I tried to see what was so engaging. I wanted to see what keeps us spending a hideous amount of time on these games, and I just don't see it. Even the hidden lore that draws so many people in is just the most basic ghost story revenge plot that we've heard countless times before. I've heard that the hidden secrets in these games help to flesh out some of the background, but for how extremely well hidden and or difficult it is to spawn some of these secrets, I want you to ask yourselves this. Do the secrets revealed really enrich the overall plot enough to justify the dozens of hours that might have to be invested? This next part is solely for the lore experts because I found some huge plot holes while playing these games that seem to have no answers anywhere on the internet. So, the first game gives slight hints that there may be more than just robots in the pizzeria. Okay. The second game even goes so far as to have the occasional weird spirit show up and leaves it for the player to decide what's really going on. In the third game, it is pretty much confirmed through the minigames that the robots are being inhabited by the spirits of dead children. If that's the case, why does the Freddy mask in the second game even work? Wouldn't these dead kids be able to tell the difference between one of their kind and a living dude scared shitless in a mask? Are all the robots possessed? Because the third game only shows 5 kids were murder victims, but there are over 10 possessed robots in the second game. That don't math well, kids. Or if some of the robots are just robots and others are possessed, why even make the distinction? Why does it matter? The end result for you is exactly the same. There's no difference in the game over. And if it is dead kids, why do they attack you? Are they just mindlessly killing? Or is it because they were killed by somebody who had the same job as you or looks like you and they want revenge? Are the ghosts so stupid that somebody wearing the same hat all looks identical? Maybe the ghosts can see into your dark past and yet are still somehow fooled by the fucking Freddy mask. And maybe they can see that you're a killer yourself. But if you're a killer, why the fuck would you take a job at a place where kids were killed? This is fiction, right? So where's the spark of creativity that would take us to even stranger new heights? We've all heard the typical ghost possession story before. Step it up, people. If it is ghosts, why don't we have a game over situation where Freddy takes control of you, forces you to cover your naked body in honey, and then runs screaming at random people about your Honey Nut Cheerios? Why the fuck not? Because it would hurt the scary tone? Bullshit. Scary games have strangely funny moments all the time. Even Silent Hill 2, considered one of the greatest horror games of all time, has a fat boy with his ass crack showing, throwing up in a toilet while you calmly chat to him about his day. If you're gonna go for the bizarre, don't half-ass it. Just roll with it instead of giving us the bare minimum. You know, about halfway through the second game, I realized the only reason I was slogging through the nights wasn't because I wanted to, but because I'm expected to for this review. These games fail to engage me in any way, and I've decided that I will not continue the series. The fourth game could change the formula dramatically, and it could be amazing, it could be really good, but I'll never know, because after 3 full games, I feel like I've gained nothing as a human being. But you know, I'm not just about criticism. I've actually come up with 2 suggestions of my own that I feel could have greatly improved my experience with these games, and they're fairly basic suggestions. Number 1, this is a job, right? Why not use the money that you've earned from night to night to buy things in town? It doesn't even need to be animated that you're walking around. Maybe you could just order these things from your house, talking to people over the phone, and maybe these people that you talk to could help flesh out the world, make it feel more real. The game could hint that there's a reason why you're taking this fucked up job, or even that normal people see you as strange, or maybe the strange people are normal, you know? This is a simple addition that could help add a large amount of world-building gameplay and story opportunities. Why not? But the biggest suggestion, this should have been mandatory. Bring a composer on the team. Only the first game has a solid music jingle, and even that is just a reworked version of an already existing score from Carmen's March of the Terradores, and you only hear that if the power goes out. The other games only have generic ominous sounds. They don't even have music on the main menu. Doing some expert research, I could not find credit given to anybody else for these games, so I assumed that all the music was done by Mr. Cawthon. Why not bring somebody else onto the team to help develop a solid and catchy signature tune for the series? I am 100% sure that even people who didn't want to get into the series could have been brought in or introduced to the series by a memorable theme. These games all fail one of the internet's most steadfast laws regarding music. If it is awesome enough, it will have a Space Jam or Giles theme remix. Do we have 5 slams at Barclays? Nope. But I can't end this video without talking about the community that surrounds these games, specifically the Let's Play community. Here is a collage of faces that I found in the video tags of various Five Nights at Freddy's videos. I have censored their faces to protect the innocents. I have no idea who these people are. I don't watch Let's Players myself. I have no idea if these are good or bad commentators, but good or bad, that doesn't matter. Tell me these aren't essentially the faces of horror cum shots that we're putting out there for the viewing community to pick and choose from. Which face will provide us with the right orgasmic cry? Where's our goddamn dignity? Five Nights isn't a game that people Let's Play for fun, because Five Nights isn't fun. The only fun you get is by watching other people play it. It's YouTube bait, because having played through it, I can honestly say that it is one of the most repetitive, tedious, unchanging, monotonous, tiresome, routine, and unvarying games that I've ever played in my goddamn life. But even those who do make good videos, who do great commentary, who make the hideously popular Gmod videos, and the Minecraft parodies, and the fan art, these things just, they bring a tear to my eye. Because all this effort is put into a series that is so bland, so middle of the road, and so many people refuse to move on from these basic games and challenge themselves with more thought-provoking themes. You know, for the sake of research, I decided to get a small idea of how much time we've spent on just a few videos of the Five Nights series. I looked up the first 100 search results for Five Nights at Freddy's, and I added up the views, and I found that those 100 videos had a combined total of 322,601,447 views. Assuming that each view only contributes 3 minutes, we've still spent a collective 58,068,260,460 minutes, a grand total of 110,406 years. Jesus, people, 100,000 years ago, the last ice age that the Earth's experience had only just begun. Not ended, just begun. May the Lord have mercy on our souls. And if that isn't scary enough, consider that I did those estimates over a week ago. Consider that I only stopped on page 6 of the YouTube suggestions. I later went back and I skipped ahead to page 39, and of the 20 results on that page, over half of the videos had over 1 million views. If this was a movie, this would be the point where the coma patient is blissfully relishing in their repetitive dreams, and they're shaken by a desperate family member who's pleading for them to wake up. And that's what I feel like when I see all those thousands upon thousands thousands of collective years spent on something so meh. Just wake up, people. Bottom line, this series is okay, but just being okay isn't enough.
Overall pizza review. Pizza buffet without sneeze guard.
So after all this, I decided to do a little research on the game's creator, Scott Cawthon. And you know what? He's one of the most stand-up game developers I've ever seen. He's donated tons of money to charity. He's done pretty much everything in these games all by himself in under a year. And he's infamously taken criticism from my personal lord and savior, Jim fucking Sterling's son, and used that criticism for his inspiration to make the Five Nights series. So why, Scott? Why do you insist on making these games all by yourself? Why do you seem to rush these things so quickly out the door? Why don't you ask for some basic help when it could improve your games dramatically? You can afford to do it. It would take some of the pressure off you, and it would still allow you total creative control. Why, Scott? Why, Scott? You're tearing me apart, Scott. Oh, you're a damn good guy and a damn impressive developer. But the steps you've taken with the sequels and the fact that you haven't improved your games enough for the amount of money, time, and love that people are willing to invest in them, I'm sorry. I can't help but call these games what they are. These are a total waste of potential. And to those of you who think this is all over, did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? Oh, God.